Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar hosted by Top Employers Institute. My name is Amara Naeem. I'm the head of client success at Top Employers Institute, and I'll be your host for the next hour. So before we get into our very interesting topic, a couple of tips for the audience. We are offering AI-generated caption as well as audio translation. You'll see the instructions on the screen as we speak. The translations are from English to several languages like German, Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Polish, Mandarin, and whatnot. Well, the link is popping up on your screen right now. If you click it, the page opens up. Go to the right side of the page, and you'll be able to select the language of your choosing. Once you've done that, it should start translating the audio or the selected caption translation language for you. Now, in order to make this more interesting, let's just make sure that we are keeping the chat alive. So let's keep it interactive. Feel free to keep putting your questions into the Q&A function, and we'll get to it either during the conversation or towards the end and try to answer as many as possible. So having said that, now that we've got the housekeeping rules out of the way, if you had the opportunity to log into our Launch a World of Work Trends report for 2025, you would have heard our stance on the collective workforce. That's the expected theme for next year, for 2025. And what that implies is that the ecosystem around our employees has expanded and become so much more fluid in the recent years. And within that concept, it's also very evident that the businesses and employers are not immune to the external challenges and what's happening around the globe anymore. And in that picture, the role of HR has obviously become so much more complex. So you cannot really look at these different topics in isolation anymore. You cannot say diversity and inclusion is separate from sustainability, from well-being of your employees, from the development of your employees and whatnot. But rather, there is a need to look at all of it in a holistic context, but also within the context of a community. There's a new theme emerging, the new belonging. That's what we also saw in our trends. And what that implies, again, is that our employees are forming and becoming part of communities that are much broader and expanded beyond the walls of your sole organization. Their needs and expectations have obviously changed. And within that, the role of HR has become, how do you toggle and how do you balance the priorities of your organization, your business, your leaders, your employees, but also society in general. So there's one such organization that's putting all of these things in perspective and really honing in on uniqueness and inclusion within that larger umbrella of sustainability and employee happiness. That is Chiesi Pharmaceuticals. And today we have the CHRO of Chiesi, Giacomo Mozzariello, joining us today. Welcome,
hello.
Giacomo. Well,
to meet you, Amara.
Lovely to see you again. And I just have to add for everybody, Giacomo is a law graduate. He has had 30 plus years of experience in HR in various capacities. So he clearly knows what he's talking about. And under his leadership, we've also seen Chiesi making strides in the space of diversity and inclusion. And that has been beautiful for us to witness at Top Employers Institute as well over the last few years. And yes, today we'll dive into Giacomo's approach to leadership is human, bold activism, the concept of uniqueness and inclusion. So really looking forward to that, Giacomo. Thank you very much for your time. And because I've heard so much about Chiesi, I would love for you to start this conversation with what's the company about, because I think everybody needs to hear that.
For sure, I'm happy to do so. and we have this first chart just to see. So we are a family-owned company, which has been as a pharma biotechnology company, and we've been founded in 1935. So next year we are turning 90, so that will be a big celebration for us. And we've been founded in Parma, which is basically in the middle of what's called the Food Valley. So the Parmesan cheese, everybody knows, comes exactly from this region. We have a very strong legacy, very connected with this community, but we have become now a multinational organization and with more than 31 affiliates throughout the globe, and with revenues now in the range of above 3 billion. 7,000 employees with a composition of 56% of women, 44 men, and actually with a high representation of women in the STEMs category, which goes up to 67%. And we are a truly pharmaceutical company with a strong investment in R&D, and this is also visible with the number of patents we have been registering. So we are first as in terms of registration of patent in Italy as a pharma company, and 10th at the European level. 3 business areas. I don't want to go into too many details, but one is AIR, which is respiratory diseases, RARE, which is rare diseases, metabolic disorder, and then the CARE, which is first mainly, so it's a combination of areas, but mainly is prenatal diseases and critical care treatments. So these are the major element. But above all, we are a benefit corporation and a B Corp certified organization since 2019, which says a bit about what kind of company we are. That's a bit the frame.
I think you had people's interest when you talked about the Parmesan cheese, so you got that covered. But all jokes aside, I think it's really. We've had several conversations, and I've loved how you've positioned the whole social purpose of the company. So tell us a little bit about what makes Chiesi so special when it comes to sustainability and social purpose.
Yeah. So, I mean, to share this, I would like to start with a personal story. So I joined this company, it's now a bit more than 5 years. And of course, when I got contacted to run for this process, I immediately was interested because I knew the company, of course, since before, and I knew that there might be a match, a very good match of values, of company values with my personal values. I went through the process, these are details, everything went well, but actually the very great confirmation of it, I got basically the very first days of my cooperation within the organization, when a colleague of mine was just sharing an experience that he had when he was attending a big town hall with one of the biggest affiliates of ours, together with our former president at that time, and I was the honorary president. And the big presentation he was giving was concluded with one statement at the end. And then he said to everybody, and above all, please remember always to take care and love each other. That was the conclusion of the speech to the town hall by our former president. So, which then goes back exactly to the kind of company we are and to our vision. So we say we are different and we do things differently. And we use the business as a force for good to generate share value for all our stakeholders, which typically are for us, our patients, the planet, and our people, where people means also our employees, but also the community where we are connected with. So with this in mind, so it's of course very clear that every and each individual story is essential to that. So, and that's what we consider, that's why D&I for us is so important, because diversity is the daily experience, is everywhere. And actually, our transition has been to diversity is actually uniqueness. And that uniqueness is what we want to foster. We want to create an environment where people really feel that they have the space to express their true self. And they see and they realize that there is that space. In a way, our objective actually is to realize Chiesi as a happy place where people really can feel that, where they are supported to in their constant growth. And even further, we go and we aim at ensuring that we contribute to the life harmony of our people. So with all that in mind, we think that there is one unique opportunity to ensure that this happens, which is you do not have to abide to any given model. You are who you are. You bring yourself as long as you share the ultimate purpose of the company, so the how the business is run and what we want to achieve as a company, then please bring all yourself, because that's the only way to bring and to contribute with your best energy for the greater good of the whole organization and the whole community.
That is such a beautiful way to put it. I mean, that's all I can say about it. But let me be the devil's advocate here for a little bit and say, isn't that a bit too ambitious to strive for? Or, we would love to hear your thoughts, if you can speak to what you're doing right now.
Yeah, and it's indeed ambitious. I mean, we are aware of that, but we do believe that it's worth being so ambitious. And when we say so, we do not say with any arrogance and with any presumption to be better than others. We simply are convinced that this is the right way, and we want to give a try. We are perfect. Are we perfect? We are not. And we know we are on a journey. But in that journey, for sure, we have the conviction that how the business is run is what really makes the difference, because we work in an ecosystem. And what we do cannot be done just for our interest. It has to be done in a way which is really contributing to all the stakeholders which are part of that system. And that strong belief is also accompanied with the idea that if we do so, we might also, let's say, pave the way for others to try the same approach and contribute for, again, a better tomorrow for the next generation than what we have today. So that's the aspiration. And it's a true aspiration, again, I want to underline, with very high level of humbleness, because we are doing and we are trying to do at our best, but we also know that we have always room for improvement. And we are always focusing to identify that and to work on it.
I think as businesses, as individuals, all of us can learn precisely from that message, that you're always on the journey. You're kind of never perfectly there, because that doesn't exist. So there's always something more to strive for. So love that you're talking about it. But also what I appreciate is for the last few years, we've talked about sustainability with different organizations across industries. And for example, sustainability, the whole social purpose was looked at on as a very business topic. HR has not much to do with it, but now hearing you say it, the CHRO of this company, it's really music to my ears sort of situation. So thank you for sharing that, Giacomo. And that brings me to, again, I'll refer to our earlier discussions as well, because I loved when you also spoke about the human leadership model. Easier said than done kind of thing, but let's just start talking about what it actually is.
Yeah, and maybe I would say that there is a strong connection with our human leadership and our, let's say, commitment to D&I. And I think it's important to start with that piece, the D&I, because it's the precondition what brought us to create the human leadership. And as said before, diversity relates to everybody. Is just a reality, and the company is a reflection of the society. So when we think about some piece of the reality, no? So we are a global company, as said, we are in 31 affiliates, so we have so many different cultures, so many different languages within our organization, different religious beliefs. We know that 60% of the world population brings a certain form of visible or invisible disability, and actually 1/3 of this is in the workplace. 42% of the worldwide population or worldwide working population is made of women, and 9% of the world population is represented by the LGBTQ plus share. Moreover, there is an aging phenomenon which is happening, and I mean, just talking about Italy, it is foreseen that over the next 2 decades, the working population will be lower than the older retired people, living people. And we are aware that 71% of our population is basically a recognized caregiver. Now, all those elements are, let's say, a bit giving a flavor of what's the environment we are in. And then the question is, how many times do we think of it while we are so busy at the workplace? That's not very often. And we as Chiesi, we want to give, on the contrary, a very focused attention to that and ensure that we keep this in mind when we act and when we take decision, to give really a space to ensure that people, and we can also show our manifesto on D&I, because I think it's very powerful in that sense. And we say what we mean with D&I, which is really we aspire to an inclusive. I can ask to show the chart if it's possible. The D&I is, and we aspire to have an inclusive workplace. And a way of working where everybody feels comfortable and can express themselves and their talent. Let's express who you really are to be happy. Every one of us is different, and every one of us is Chiesi. So that's the essence of what we want to achieve as focus on D&I. So now you were asking to me, so why human leadership then? Well, actually, the human leadership is exactly that. And when we have been starting reflecting on the idea of we want to create our own model of leadership, we have been, let's say, inspired by a report which was published by the United Nations Compact, which was named Leadership for the Decades of Action. And we were basically aiming on identifying those, let's say, essential traits to ensure that sustainability was at the core of our leadership teams. So we took inspiration for that piece, and then we further work on it to, of course, make it really ours, connected with our values and with our culture. And we came up with this model of leadership, human leadership, where we do see that for us, leaders are those who have hearts filled with the courage to drive change. They have minds open and able to innovate, hands to hold other hands and share the progresses and the benefits, and eyes to see that where there is business, there must be care. So this is a model which is so powerful and so true, and there's nothing abstract, theoretical, ephemeral. In the essence, the inspiration is leadership is about what happens every day in your interaction with your people, your peers, your stakeholders, and how you deal with them and how you make feel them. It's also something that we say it's a kind of act of generosity. No, it's you are there, and you can realize that actually you have the opportunity with what you do to make the life of others better, just maybe by doing or by saying something, or by not doing or not saying something else. So that's a bit of the idea. And when we look at this model, we do consider this not like let's say, pure formalistic and tick the box exercise. It's really something real and something that we have some elements, of course, which are aspirational, and some elements which still relates to your uniqueness. So we do not ask everybody to exactly be mastering all the 4 traits of our human leadership. We want to see this in action as a collective leadership. Then each one of us will represent and will cover naturally more one dimension than the other. But of course, we were all together cooperating and then, doing and contributing to the greater good of the organization, ensuring that all the 4 elements are the ones which are which are the living and visible actions and behaviors of our organization. So that's the connection. And actually, in essence, and we can also go to the next chart, of course, what I share here is the narrative of our human leadership. And of course, as good HR, we have all our structure, detail, with the potential differentiator, level of coverage, and all this stuff, of course, has to be then translated into something which is actionable. But what is important that this human leadership model has been embedded in all our people management processes, and then is the reference point to appoint leader, to recruit leader, to develop leader, and is going to be actually this a step to come, not yet in place, but will be also embedded in all our performance management processes. So it's something which is really concrete. So it's nothing. On one hand, is something aspirational, motivational, and also forward-looking. On the other hand, is very concrete, tangible, and embedded in all our daily reality.
I can feel your passion about this, Giacomo. So it's really great to see and hear. I've made so many notes in the last few minutes because I loved so many things that you've said. For example, your statement on company is the reflection of society. That could not be more true, especially current day and age, and it really resonates with what we are also seeing. Like, you cannot just disengage from the rest of the world. You also talked about the aging population, the workforce shortages, and we've seen like declining birth rates around the world. So all those issues are real, and they are going to impact businesses. So thank you for mentioning those. I also love that you are using what you're saying in your decision making, so really making it come to life. And yes, like you said, like good HR, you're also making it actionable. So that's great. I do love the vision on D&I as well, but I adore the collective leadership concept that you've referred to. It's like, because we are also talking about collective workforce.
Yes.
That fits in so well. It's getting me really excited. But okay, like I said, I've made like a full list. I have a page full, but let's not make this my monologue. Let's go back to you. I'll go back to something you had mentioned earlier as well, and that triggered me. It was about that visible and invisible diversity. Would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with regard to our D&I journey, so just to say that we really took a strong stand, and we wanted really to see something happening not only at Chiesi, but also in the broader community, with a sort of bringing some activism within the company on those items. And everything started in 2019, when actually we have been certified as a benefit corporation, and we have been also asked to structure ourselves with dedicated bodies and with also clear governance systems, which could allow us to really be impactful on our D&I agenda. And this has started, as I said, in 2019. Then we created the first global D&I committee and our vision 2020. And this brought to create policies to go to the, let's say, boosting the creation of ERGs, so Employee Resources Group, which are called in Chiesi CAN, so Chiesi Affinity Networks, and then started launching some global challenges. The first one in 2022 on gender equity, and then in 2024 we had a second challenge this year on the global disability and caregivers equality. So this just to say that it has been really a long journey which is on its way. With that journey, how then we are running the business, and we can go also to the next chart, is that there is a very strong starting point, which is represented by the Global D&I Committee, which has been created, which is a mixed group of 16 employees, people with different professional expertise, different, let's say, cultural background, generation traits, gender representation, which they are in charge of defining the D&I strategy and the D&I agenda. The Global D&I Committee works in strict connection, actually reports technically to the Global Executive Leadership Team, which is the sponsor of the initiative. Of course, the one that they also be regularly informed, and they running the review of what we are doing along the way. The Global D&I Committee also acts as the Gender Pay Equality Committee, which is also something that by governance is required. But if the Global D&I Committee is so connected to the top of the organization, there is the equal connection to the whole organization, so to all people involved, to all employees, which happens through, on one hand, also respective local D&I committee that we have, and with the ERGs, the Chiesi Affinity Networks, which have been, as said, have been launched in 2022, and then now they are more than they've reached 27 camp in the group. So it's a really fantastic visible impact of the transformation that we were aiming to happen. And those 27 active affinity groups are now distributed and spread throughout all the globe where Chiesi is present, and they are focused on themes such as LGBTQ plus representation, cultural diversity, generational diversity, women themes, also disability, so many dimensions. And they have been able to really contribute to generate new ideas, new activities, campaign, concerts, keynote speaker, community activism, that of course, with this company support in a fully cooperative way, is really transforming and really realizing that the D&I agenda is a living experience within the organization. And just to mention the way forward, we are now working on an intergenerational board, a kind of shadow board of Generation Z and late millennial that will be put in place and will operate as a shadow board of the global executive leadership team. Something that, of course, is not yet realized. So maybe this might become the topic for another.
I'm noting it down, so I'm going to hold you to it.
But that's also just again, I mentioned this not to say, just to show that there is an ongoing journey, and we keep adding pieces along the way in a co-creative way with the whole organization. And also the way how we manage it is very holistic because we do liaise and we do join forces with all the departments with their commitment, but also with the external supplier also with the patients' advocacy groups. So it's really a joint strategy because we do believe in the network we are part of, in the ecosystem we are part of, and all together, and only if we join forces, we can really, let's say, raise the level of impact and in a way, not only making this happening within the organization, but again, having that important impact also on the community and the society.
See, this is the major shift that's needed today. It's going beyond the organization and the whole community activism, as you referred to, is, I think, not something that everybody's yet comfortable or successful with, but it's inspiring to see the model that you've adopted and see your journey, because often bigger organizations especially struggle with how do we come up with a framework and get it implemented on the grassroots level, right? And then go beyond the organization is a totally different ballgame. So it's nice to see that it has happened. There are success stories around it. And I also like that all the different groups or ERGs that you cover, there's such a wide range to it. So it's not just women's and LGBT, there's disability involved, there's generational diversity. So again, hats off for all those achievements. You had also mentioned something about corporate activism. So I'm very interested to explore that concept from your perspective.
Yeah. And again, it is very much connected with, so as I said, we want to create Chiesi as an marketplace. So it means that when we initiate a transformation process, we want really to ensure that this is visible, that this is clearly communicated, and this is really strictly monitored in its implementation along the way. So this translates into launching what we call global challenge. So we challenge each other, actually. How we do that? First of all, we normally start from an assessment and an auditing phase of an issue that we do see, we do recognize, and we want to measure it so that we can then fix a clear target which is solid because it's based on our reality. So this is what we did in 2022, when we launched our first global challenge on gender equality, and we can see the chart that we have just showing this. And this was exactly coming from the evidence, that in the workplace we have 42%, generally speaking, as represented by women, and in leader position only the 32%. But we also are aware that actually those companies who have gender equality, they are, let's say, more productive than others by 41%. So with this in mind, then we said we want to challenge each other, we measure where we are, and we set targets. So we did, and we set a target to become gender equal in terms of equal pay by 2023, so reaching an unexplained gender pay gap lower than 1%, which means not statistically relevant. And at the same time, launching an equal opportunity. So launching the target to become 50% leaders, women and male, by 2030. Actually, I'm very happy to say that this was then done, as said, in 2022. And actually, we have been able to reach the equal pay already in 2022 with a very structured plan and also with allocation of budget to ensure this to happen. We are in perfect trajectory in terms of equal opportunity. We were last quarter of 2019 at 32% women in leadership position. We are now at 43% women in leadership position. And actually, given the trajectory we have, we just decided this week, so it's very recent, that our target by 2030 has been anticipated to 2028. So by 2028, we will reach 50% in leadership position at every level. So all the grades of leadership that we have within the organization. So I would say that this is, again, something very concrete, visible, and this is kind of also we say the Chiesi DNA. So we aim high, but then we are very, very solid in how to pave the way to that high that we aim, and we keep measuring us and ensuring that it's not just about dream and words, but it's concrete transformation happening.
Love it. Well, congratulations, because this is definitely much easier said than done. So
Yeah.
to already achieve your equal pay target and then expediting your 2030 goal of representation and leadership to bringing it 2 years forward, I think that's not something easy to come by. That's brilliant to see. Any other concrete challenges that you countered, Giacomo? Would love to hear.
Sure. The second challenge I mentioned earlier is the one on disability and caregivers equality, and we can also see the chart. And again, here is the focus is really that we wanted to set was to we want to really appreciate and value all the abilities without focusing on the contrary, on the obstacles and the possible limitations. That's the approach. And with that awareness that 70% of, let's say, of the worldwide population has some form of visible and invisible disabilities, and then we think, how is this visible in the workplace? It's not. You don't even know very often. So it's something which is hidden because there is this stigma around that. So then, if we really want to make this a great place and a happy place, we need to ensure that this is the concrete action which are taking. And so we launch our second challenge, which is about two different goals. The first one is really to break physical, psychological, and social barrier to ensure that we create conditions for people with disability to disclose it and to have the space and the room to share their needs and their feeling and their let's say conditions, so that they can really put in the condition to contribute at the best. The second one is to increase the level of representativeness of people with disability with concrete, actionable plan that we have launched throughout the whole organization. So at the same time is a caregiver challenge. Why? 71% of people in the workplace are also caregiver. And often the idea behind being a caregiver is a sort of feeling, I have a limitation, I'm not always available. This is not good for the company. We say the opposite. Being a caregiver helps you to develop new competencies, new sensitivities, a higher level of empathy, which actually are all dimensions which are so strictly connected with the human leadership that we want to see in place, that actually for us is a value that we want to be recognized and we want to be supported. That's why we have launched that campaign, providing them measure also with a clear guideline supporting, and also with so really concrete measure to support those who have caregiver responsibility, but in first place giving them the space to recognize that that is an experience which is qualifying them and is providing them value back to the organization. And that's what we want to make happen. So I think this is really a strong commitment that as an organization we want to have. And in a way I feel honored, but I also feel strongly responsible to make this happen. Because this is a transformation in a mindset that typically is not the standard one.
I think in summary, this message needs to go far and wide. I don't know of many companies who are looking at it from this perspective, and I think that's just amazing. So really hats off to you guys. I think if this is not gonna get you the best talent in the world, I don't know what will. It's very, very impressive. I'm also looking at the time, Giacomo. I could take this for another hour, but just to wrap up, and so we have time to take a few questions that we've got from the audience. What's in store for Casey in the future in this aspect, and any inspiration for others who want to follow?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I would say my message is really be bold, be brave, and think big. So this is something that I think future generations, but I would say also current generation, will hold us accountable for the equity or inequity that we put in our way of running the business. And so with this in mind, it's not just a question of being tactic, being in a single moment. It's a question of really working on a sustainable base for a better future for really our planet, our communities, our people, in our case, our patients, because we are biopharmaceutical companies, really focus on keeping contributing for the best. And to make this happen to the current leader, future leader, which are connected or connected, I will tell them, just bring your whole self to the workplace. Just recall who you are and what you're really caring about, because if you do so, you really are creating the condition to live an happy life. If not, you will be just surviving.
Beautiful. I think we need to bring you in for like these speaker events a bit more, Giacomo, because that's really on point, needed. Not just the words, but we've seen that you've proven that it is actually reflected in how you do things at Casey. So extremely impressive to see. And I'm looking at loads of questions here as well. So you clearly got the attention from our audience as well. And the first one actually is, Marina wanted you to repeat the phrase of the ex-president at the end of the speech that you had referred to at the town hall. I guess that was also
so it was at the end, and then he simply said, and please, overall, above all, always remember to take care and love each other. That was the message from him.
Thank you so much for that. And we'll move on to the next question. And of course, everybody appreciates the relevance of the topic. And Pavani wants to know, how do you hold accountable for the subtle leadership behaviors that do not align to the organization's vision?
Yeah. So first of all, we have been in a very strong educational campaign, which starts from the top. So the group executive leadership team has been really role modeling, also starting with the educational program. Leadership, human leadership transformation is part of the global priority on the one-pager of the company now since a couple of years. It's been launched and will be also next year, still there. And that's the next step, which I just mentioned during my talk, is that it will be embedded within the new performance management system, which then this will really be the place to ensure that alignment is a key and essential requirement also for the quality of the performance which is provided.
Great, thanks, Giacomo. I think there's a very related question again. So how do you educate your managers on the importance of the human leadership model?
Yeah, so the human leadership model is, it's really not an HR stuff. I want to underline, even it's when I spoke about the process of coming and bringing this to life, this has been done in fully global, dialogical, co-creative approach with business involvement and as a very joint effort. So it has been created with the backup of the organization. So which is, I mean, just this is the first requirement. Moreover, then afterwards, then this has been embedded in the vision of the, as part of the vision of the organization and in the One Chiesi strategy as one of the, or actually as the most relevant enabler of its achievement. So, and this is about communication and clarity of the relevance of the human leadership. That said, we have launched an educational program by waves on each and every trait of our human leadership model. And it's embedded in our learning program, starting with the Academy, the Chiesi Academy, which are the top program for all our key talents, but also as part of any team development session that we take place. So typically, there is always a moment where we do have sometimes spent on a reflection around human leadership and what it means in concrete terms for us in this moment, in this situation, etc. So it's really walking the talk. It's really providing a sustainable support to its understanding and its adoption. So it's not something that you can realize in one day or in 1 year. It's a cultural transformation require years. But of course, it's something which is so visible and clearly endorsed by the top management of the organization and lived by all the leaders of the organization. Not only, all those programs are not only for leaders, are for the whole organization, because leadership is about everybody. It's not about just those who are leaders in terms of role, but it's about how the company wants to behave and act.
I think also what you mentioned is very important, is co-creation that gets you the best buy-in right from the start. So yes. I think that was a very interesting step that you mentioned. Great, thanks for that, Giacomo. We'll just take a couple of more. Here, again, there's another question from Marina, which talks about how you manage to combine pay equity and performance management.
Yeah. So, I mean, this goes back, first of all, pay equity is something, of course, that we haven't done in loneliness. So you need to be assessed. So we have auditors that are auditing us every year to ensure that they give us the measure and the evidence where we stand. And then we have worked on our yearly salary review process, which of course strictly dependent on the performance and connected with the performance. But in parallel to that, we have also looked at outstanding gap in terms of salary, which were not justified by the performance and by the seniority of the incumbent. And for those, so we have combined so the regular salary review based on the performance with an add-on to ensure to fill those gaps which were outstanding. This has happened for 2 years. 1 year, actually 1 main year, which has been the one which is allowed to bring to the gender pay gap 0. But then we have also kept a small little budget for the second year. From the 3rd year onwards, there is no need anymore of a dedicated budget. It's just performance management and, let's say, unbiased processes in terms of salary review process.
Because it becomes part of the nature of the job kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's great. I have to ask you this question because I also want to know, how does Chiesi implement employee value proposition globally? I mean, because you have such a strong message, I'm also very curious how does that become part of your EVP?
And thank you for this question, because it really allows me to say, I mean, Chiesi is a company, and I hope that this has come across. So we aim high, but we are not. We are very humble, and we want to keep that humbleness. This has been a constant trait of the organization, and in a way has also had a side effect of not being so visible in the marketplace, in full transparency and honesty. We have now worked, and actually there's been a work run this year on our EVP, on a relaunch of our VP, and we want to come back to the marketplace with a reinforced communication campaign on who we are, what we stand for, and ensuring that all the elements which I try to convey today in my speech will be visible and reflected in our employer branding. So something to come, still keeping that tone, which is not arrogance. We are not the best, we are not perfect, but we have a clear view of what we want to do, how we want to do, and what we want to achieve. A longer journey to go there.
Lovely. Like I said, if we had more time, I think we'd take that up too. But what an insightful and inspiring conversation, Giacomo. Thank you so much for joining us. We'd love to have you back. We'll keep an eye on the shadow board stuff, so holding you accountable to that. But for everybody else, thank you very much for joining. The questions that are left, we'll pass them on to Giacomo, and we'll see if we can get an answer. But you will receive the recording of this webinar along with a survey that is popping up on your screen right now. Please do take a couple of minutes to answer that. It will help us make sure that we are making some revisions to how we do this to bring the best value to everybody who listens in. Again, thank you very much, Giacomo, and everybody else for listening in, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.